Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, public teaching in English for Monday, October 30th, 2017. And today we have part 6 of the Understanding Plasma Science series, and we're going to be going into more depth on the health, nature, and the soul. So that's going to be with Jim and Lisa McDonald, and also Dr. Rodrigo Vildosola is here today. I'm your host, Flint Mulhausen. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Jim.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Flint. I think, Dr. Rodrigo, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much. I'm going to start sharing the screen. This is another workshop of basics on plasma science, and this here an application of plasma technology in health. Plasma Science Workshop 6. So interesting today, the subjects of discussions today is our body in a plasma field and understanding the process of diseases. Very interesting subject, because this is totally different the way the medical field see the diseases. So hoping that one day they see this and start to change their mind. As we remember, it is important to understand how we control the body. As Lisa before, and then we show you where the soul is located. Some of MRIs being taken on the brain, and we have seen this empty space inside the brain. With this, as we understand, the plasma has a strong field in the center and the weaker field on the outside. So in the center, which is the soul is located, which is a stronger field, it controls the whole system, the whole brain, the whole body. So is the control center inside the brain. So as we understand this, in the center, there's a soul. You are the soul. You have to understand this, and people, it's hard to understand that we are the soul. There, a small piece, it's that very small piece. How can we be there? We be their little being in that little space and have a lot of information. If you know that, understand that microchips, the microchip is a little tiny elements that even fits in less space in that area. And it has a lot of information and be able to control big machines, satellites, etc. So that's that space, that big or small or bigger space than a microchip is our soul. We have a lot of power. We are connected to the source, to God too. So we have that power inside to control the whole brain. And we see the brain, we see the body. The soul sits in the center of the brain. But then the first circle that you see on the green side is the midbrain that controls the emotion of the body and of the brain. And the outside is where they control the physicality. So how can we understand, how can we think that the emotions control the physicality? And this is a new subject that we're gonna address. So here we are. How we feed the human body. Before, remember we said that 20% of the energy that the body needs come from the food and 80% from the skin. But now, to be more specific, that 80% of the energy has to come through the skin. It's not just to the body. It's not only comes through the skin, but also through the sense organs. And that sense organs is the smell, the sight, the hearing, the taste, or the lung, or the tongue, and the breast, which is the sixth organ sense. We're going to discuss this. We control emotions and the skin. So through all these organs comes energy, feeding ourselves. And saying feeding ourselves, if we're saying that we, at the beginning, the way the body was formed is through the elements from the interaction of Earth and Sun, comes the carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, and there's the rest of the elements. 21 rest of elements come from Earth. This is the physicality way. That is the form of the physicality. But also, we feed ourselves through the emotions. It's not just like a car that only needs oil, gasoline, and water to run that car. We need those elements, yes, to run the physicality, but also we need the emotions to control the whole body. So as we understand, it's a lot of whole concept. So to discuss every single sense organs, the eye, yes, we see the world through our eyes, and the information gets categorized as good and bad by our brain, resulting as good or bad emotions. Yes, we can see the world through the eyes, but also controls emotions. How many times you see something beautiful, something laughing, something amazing, and you see it and you feel the emotion, the good emotions of that. This affects the heartbeats, the skin has reactions, everything. But also on the opposite, when you see something bad, something's being murdered, something being abused, blood or something terrible, you see, just seeing that scene affects your body, reacts, the whole body reacts, not just only the side, but also the heart. The heart start beating differently. Your blood pressure goes higher. Your stomach has contractions in your stomach, so have reaction, and this can increase those reactions. Sometimes people stop bleeding because that reaction they have when you see something. The adrenals start affecting their kidneys. Everything people can see something that scare them, they might cause a heart attack. So they control the emotion. They feed in the body through the emotions. We control the body through the emotions. You will see the tongue. Yes, we see the tongue as it helps to taste and swallow and communicate with the outside world. And the Chinese medicine, the tongue is an organ of expression that connects to the heart and transforms matter into plasma state, whether it's a food, liquid, or air. And it's interesting to understand how important is the tongue. So how the tongue is connected to the field, the energy field that we have around the body. How many times we have said that through our energy, that energy that we have around the body attracts energy, attracts those elements that the body needs. There's also that's this a center that when we eat something, when we taste something, or even the air transform into the energy. Let me give you an example. How many times you are thirsty, you are dying for a drink, you've been working outside on the under the sun, you're sweating a lot, and you've been not drinking for hours, even for days, and you're dying for liquid or food. As soon as you get a little liquid, you put in your mouth, a little sip of water, you feel the taste, you feel the reaction on the body. Normally you say, no, in order to drink, if my body needs water, that means every single cell of the body needs water. And we think as a doctor, okay, we have to drink the water, goes to the mouth, the soft with the stomach, and then the stomach has to pass through the walls of the stomach, and then go to the bloodstream and bring in every single drop of water, molecule of water to every single cell. It takes a lot of time. But how come we have an instant effect? Some people say it has the effect of the brain. Yes, in a way it is, but it's something else. It's as soon as something touches the tongue, because it's the fluids in the tongue, it changes to a plasma. It changes to energy, and it goes through all that field of energy you have around the body, and it touches every single cell of your body. That's the effect that we have instantly. Even when you are drying for some, you haven't eaten for days, and you're hungry, and somebody puts a little food in front of you, take a taste. As soon as you're swallowing, you feel the effect on the body. You feel the emotions, the good feeling of having that food, because as soon as it touches the tongue, it turns into plasma. That's the first step to turn into plasma, and it has the effect on the whole body. The air, when you breathe, another thing, when you breathe, people say it, and even in the medical field, it says, no, the air has to come through the nose or through the trachea, the alveolus, and pass every single molecule of oxygen through the alveolus and get to the bloodstream. How come if we stop breathing for a few seconds or even a minute or 2 minutes, you dying for a little bit of air, and as soon as you breathe in, as that seconds you feel the effect on the body. That because as soon as the air passes through the back of the tongue, it changes to a energy, to a plasma energy, and interacts with all that energy on your body. Remember, every single part of the body has layers. Because it's a field interaction of fields, every single one, and that the whole body has energy. So whenever happens inside the body affects the whole system, the whole body. So it's not that the every air molecule of air, the oxygen has to go through the alveolus to this to every single red blood cells and bring it to every single part of the body. Also, it takes a lot of time to bring oxygen to the body if we understand that way, if we think in that way. So it's totally different. The concept of the way the body works is totally different. The way, as a doctor, we were taught, it's totally, with all respect, it's totally wrong. It didn't make sense now, understanding the plasma. It makes sense how the way is, how the body is connected. The tongue also has thousands of nerves ending connected to the organs of the body. There's a lot of doctors, a lot of people, not doctors, but people that works on the on health area and works on the tongue, and through the tongue can understand or can find problems in the whole body, or so connected to the body, as well as the acupuncture is connected to you see the whole body and the ears. So when you punch every part of the ears, it's affecting the whole body. So also the nose, as we know, the nose helps to pass the air into the lungs, passes information into the brain, on the top of the brain. So there's a different functions of the nose. One is it goes the air through the nose, and the nose helps the air to humidify, to moisture the air so it doesn't come dry. When you breathe through to the mouth all the time without using the nose, the air gets dry. It dries your throat. But if it goes through the nose, if it moisture the air, it filters the air, it cleans the air. It's also they're clean so they can go through the lungs. But also on the top of the nose, we have a little plate, a little anatomical piece of structure they call cruciform plate. It's a very thin plate that's on the top of the nose. When we breathe and we bring those elements, like now we're using the breathing devices, well, you will understand in the future how to treat the emotions, because we're using the different devices to bring elements that helps to control the emotions, like seeing, you will know it in the future. But on the top of the nose, we have that little plate, as I said, the cruciform plate is a very thin, it's connected to the brain. So whatever passes through the brain, through the nose and the top, is connected straight to the brain. So even that little plate, a lot of a neurosurgeon uses to have access to the brain and remove some tumors, because it's easy to go through the brain instead of going through the scalp. They have to make a big hole. So it's a lot of functions here in the nose. It also triggers the memories or emotions and attraction. How many times also you smell a beautiful rose or beautiful garden and feel emotionally involved in that, and happiness, it brings memories about that perfume as well. It's some memories about love, about connections with good people, but as well, when you smell something that is not attracted to you, like sometimes when a lot of people have an experience when we visit the hospitals. They have so many chemicals around in the environment, and as soon as go to the hospital, they smell those chemicals, and they have starting to have fear. So that fears affects the heartbeats, the blood pressure, the adrenals, the digestion system, the kidneys, the liver, everything. So just through smelling, so controls the memories, controls the emotions through this. So we can feel the emotions. So we feel ourselves through that. This is not just the elements, the carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, and hydrogen. So we also, in order to survive, we need those emotions. That's the way we control the whole body. In the medical field, we said that the brain has a sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. The sympathetic is the one you control. You control the movements of the body, and parasympathetic is the one you cannot control, that like the digesting, the heartbeats and everything. It does control by the brain, but also is controlled by emotions. You control that, but we are not aware. Still, we're not aware that we are the soul we can control. There's a lot of people that are able to control the body. There's some people that do meditation and able to control the body and control every system, every organ in the body. So even now, through the CAS technology, so many times Mr. CAS has taught us now that, and try to insist the body to understand who we are. This is not just the body. We are the souls who control the body. When you understand and you are the soul, the whole system will change. The whole world will change. The way we think and how manifest things. Now the ears, sounds contain different spectrum of plasma fields. Our ability to process the information we receive through the ears creates different emotions in our body, like hearing a good music, melody, a different music. It brings calmness, happiness, and that affects your body. When you feel happy, your blood system, the flow of blood and your body changes in a nice way. But also when you hear somebody screaming or yelling at you, you feel fear. The whole body's changed, totally different just by you hear. So we feed ourselves through the sense of organs. It's not just, as I say, not just the plasma, not just the elements that are in the environment. There's two ways to feed ourselves, because there's two ways to understand the diseases. One is through the emotion, the balance in the emotion and balance in the body. We have two sources, two things that we have to bring balance. The body, when it is exposed to the environment that is so polluted, it creates imbalance in the body. But also, if we create imbalance in the emotions, we create diseases, because we have the capacity to change every part of the body. As well, the lungs plays an important role on the emotions and also in the physicality. So we breathe in plasma from the environment and breathe out carbon dioxide. Yes, in the matter state, as well as a negative energy the body needs to eliminate to keep balance. So the organs, the lungs extract bad energy that we have inside the body. As we understand that kidneys, with the body and the physicality, and also in emotions, the kidneys works eliminating things that the body doesn't need, but as well as the lungs, the energy that we don't need inside the body, we breathe out. And then we give you another example about this. Have you know that the rate of societal is so higher on the dentist and the professional dentist? People say, because they are in so much stress working on different people. They're not true. There's not as much more stress in people who works on the heart surgery and brain surgery and the different kinds of surgery. There's not true there because there are and a lot of stress dealing with a lot of patients. The reason is because people that come to the dentist, they open the mouth, they breathe out, and those people have a lot of emotions, a lot of problems, and they breathe out that emotions. And you are in front of that as a dentist, you are in front of them, you breathe in all that energy, bad energy that's affecting you. You are absorbing those emotions. This is totally different way to see the medical field, the body. So you attract those bad emotions and affecting you. That's why those people, the dentist, comes in depression and have a high rates of suicidal because they're depressed. They are absorbing every energy, every bad energy of every person who comes to see them. So that's totally different the way we see it. The skin, now, yes, it's incredible receptor on the body, largest receptor energy on the body, receive plasma energy as well as he eliminates it. And it's also a skin as a shield. It's a shield, yes. In the physicality, yes, we have there's the only way they in the medical field see the skin as a shield against infections, against pollutions. So, but it's not. Actually, through the skin, we receive a lot of energy, as I said, those elements, but also we create shields against people. People, like an example, people that have been abused, they're being touched, and they don't want to create something to defend themselves. So they start creating problems like psoriasis. People who have that kind of problems, so skin cancer, it's because they create something on the skin so people can have people away from them. They are in some way we see they are shy or have problems, emotional problems. Problems that not necessarily comes from this life, comes also from previous life, or those that are close mind, from emotions, problems that created in from the ancestors. That information comes in your DNA. You get that information in your body. You have the fear of being in contact with people, so you create shields against it. So now, if we see this way, yes, in the physicality, we treat the medical field treat the diseases or entertain the diseases because they don't heal anything. They just entertain. But even though they have the intention, doctors have the intentions to heal them, to treat it, to cure any disease, but they haven't been able to do it because they haven't understood what's really happened. So the source of the diseases are emotions. So we create a problem. We create changes in the body in the different ways. If we have problems with sight, we have to understand if that person have problems or emotional problems to see something, and you want to block them inside of the brain, says, I don't want to see that. And so he blocks himself on the side. Even the smell, if somebody lost the smell. So yes, in the physicality, you wanted to do something locally to enhance the functionality of that organ, but also you have to understand why they have that problems, why they create their problems. So in a way, so do you have to deal with emotions? Whatever disease you have to go deeper because you have the capacity to create everything, realities, and also to change your body to protect yourself. You as a soul, you are not the body. You have to understand you are the soul. And as a soul, you using the body, using that structure to have an experience in the physical world. So you can control everything and you can create something for good or for bad, changes in the body. So the sixth sense organ receive energy of emotions from outside world. The breath you receive is also a great receptors of energy, which is the emotions of the environment, of the people. When you watch a movie, you have experiment this. When you watch a movie that probably they make you feel have some kind of emotions, either positive emotions or negative emotions every time you see that movie. So I invite you to, next time you watch a movie, don't see it facing the screen, the TV, whatever. Just see it by your side and see the effect is totally different. When you approach another person, when you hug another person, and you connect each other through the breast, when you touch the breast, either women or men, when you touch them, you interact emotions. So you sometimes when you hug somebody, you feel like something weird. Says, I don't like something about this person, because if that person have bad intention, you feel that emotions, you feel it. Sometimes you saying, oh, I feel it inside of me, how I feel. It's because the interaction of that breast, interaction of those feels, you feel emotion. And also the opposite. When you hug somebody, when you salute somebody on your shake hands, okay, you feel good. You interact also energy. Sometimes you suck energy. Sometimes you give energy, interact energy. But when you hug them in a nice way, you feel the love from another person. You feel different. You feel that you really have emotionally involved with that person. And another thing, when like the grandparents, when they have the grandkids and they hug them, why they feel happy, why they feel energized. They say, I love my kids, I love my grandkids, they are incredible. Yes, because in a way, yes, they are part of the blood. They're incredible. You love because it's part of your family. But when you hug them, those little entities have so much energy. They live in the now. They have much love. So when you hug them, when you hug the kid and the kid comes to you and they hug you, they give you energy. They give you life. You give happiness. And you receive that happiness. You receive that energy. You receive the life. It's not that you're sucking the life out of them. In a way it is, but you're not affecting them. You receive that energy out of them because they have a lot of energy. That's why you love them. It's not because, oh, it's part of my family. No, you feel that energy of the kids. And when you hug any kids, when you come to you, close to you, a kid and wants to give you a hug, when you hug them, says, wow, so much love for this kid. It's so beautiful because you interact your chest with the chest of this entity and you receive that energy. The feel. So the breast plays an incredible role on the emotions. That's why we have tremendous amount of cancer in the breast, because it interacts with emotions of with your mother, with your kids, with your father, with your partners. So this is the main problems in all of the humanity: love, interacting with parents or kids. So that's why we have so much cancer in the breast. So we have to deal, if we want to really treat any disease, we have to go to the source of diseases, which is the emotion part. And then the physicality. So if you have any problems, any imbalance in the physicality, yes, we're going to treat it. We're going to see in the future, understanding how the cancer is, that is involves some metal. There's an imbalance in the body. They create some problems, physicality problems, but also emotions involved in that. So we have to deal with both things, the emotions and the physicality, and everything's going to be changed. The digestive system, yes, it takes 20% of the energy because the food comes to the food becomes plasma once entered to the body. So the tongue is part of the digestion system. As soon as attached, the tongue, it changes to energy, starting to change energy, and then go through the stomach. And when it gets to where the acids, chloric acids and stomach, it'll nanocode it so that you will understand the future how to create nanocoded the plates or elements to create energy. The same is going to happen inside the stomach. Once you get in touch with those acids, it expands those elements. They lose those elements of the molecules of the food and creates energy. So the energy is the one who passes through the walls of the stomach or the intestine, not the food. The food is nothing past. The body has the capacity to receive the energy out of the food. Once it passes through the layers of the stomach, that fields, that interacting fields of the stomach layers, and it comes through the body, and the body has the capacity to turn into to a matter state. Let me give you an example. If you need calcium in the body, and you eat something, either pills, tablets, or food that contains calcium, your body receives the calcium. Once it comes to the stomach, on this digestive system, you receive the energy out of the calcium. It's energy, not the calcium, just the energy. And the energy passes through the walls, and the lymph attracts that energy and turns into matter and brings us to the bones like a bricks inside to create bricks, to create more bone. So, and then as well, the organ has the capacity to turn from matter to a plasma to eliminate everything that we need. As I said before, the breathing, or as well as a plasma turned into matter as a the kidney is what it does. So it's a plasma energy inside the body has to be eliminated. So it turns into a matter state in order to be expelled through the body. So there's incredible ways to understand. This is what happened in the body. So it has to change the way we see it and we understand how the body works. So the medicine, the traditional medicine, has to change the way we treat. We don't treat, and we just has to bring balance. As I said, it's a physical. We have to bring balance in the physicality and also balance in the emotions, and your body responds. So as I said, you are the soul. You have to understand you are the soul. You are the one who controls the body. So when you're aware of this, everything's going to start changing. That's just only in your body, but around the world, everything's going to be changed. So you sit in the soul, in the center. You are the most powerful energy inside. The strongest energy field is inside of you. You have that capacity. And then the emotions that is there is in between you and the physicality. So it's interesting the way we see the body now, and the way we're gonna bring balance to the body. In the future, you will understand how we create different devices. We call them health units, not medical, not devices that heal. We don't heal anything. We bring balance. We create environments so your body can adjust itself and change it and repair itself and be out of the any disease. Do you have any questions? There's a lot of, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, there's a lot of things we're going to discuss in the future. But here first, you have to understand the basics, how the body works. So we're going to teach you how to create those environments to bring balance to the body in every way, to the emotionally and physically. So we're going to teach you all that. You will see that in the future, we won't need doctors. You will be able to do everything. I say it all the time to the kids, if we teach this technology in the elementary school, that will be the future doctors. At the age of 12, 13 years old, they will be the future doctor. They don't have to go to the medical school, because learning this is so beautiful and easy to understand that everybody can do it. So now, thank you, Clint. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, there are a couple of people with their hands up here. We have Klaus Diedebauer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Klaus. You can.
Hello, Rodrigo. No, I had no question. I had only the hand over.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Rodrigo, this is John.
Yeah, John.
How are you?
Yeah, John.
In the digestive system, we've got the thin intestine, which I imagine it's all crumpled up, and the matter doesn't go through the walls. It only interchanges the energy with the body, and then it goes into the bigger intestine, And I imagine it's where the change from plasma into matter, it takes place in that thicker intestine, and it accumulates there to be able to evacuate. Is that so?
That's correct. Yeah, so your body only takes from the food just energy, but the food, once you're in the future, I remember you, John, explain how you gonna make food out of the excrement, the poo, and it's a good idea. With respect, we discussing later. I mean, a long time ago, between John and I. This is for all you guys. It says yes, the poo is when you understand how the nanocoated system works, how we nanocoated the plates and creates energy. The same as the food. Once it got to the body, it's nanocoated, and when you poo, it's like nanocoated food. And John was explaining how he put him that poo with caustic in order to remove the smell out of this, and then put CO2 against. And I don't know if you kept doing the experiment, John, and what is the result you have had? If you really be able to feed out of those elements.
I didn't complete it because we said we wouldn't work with a caustic for feeding. So I stopped the experiment. I still have all the matter there. It's a question of completing it. But it's interesting, as you said, all the nasty smells disappear and everything changes.
Yes, it's a beautiful experiment. I mean, now when we're dealing with plasma technology, nobody will make any mistakes. We have an open door to experiment with everything, and brings the only condition that we ask to everybody is whatever you do, whatever results you bring, share all the information, share everything for humanity. This technology belongs to humanity. Don't keep it to yourself. Myself, whatever I do, whatever I create, I post it. I post it on Facebook, I post it on YouTube, whatever, or here on the teachings. And everyone, Rika and Klaus and every single one who creates something, share everything. Nobody keeps themselves. So we have to start thinking in the way that we're going to create something new in order to make money. No, we want to change something. We can create something to change the world, to bring something beautiful to the world in order to change, to work as a community, as a team, the whole humanity. That's the way we have to work. Sometimes I become very emotional.
Yeah.
Excited about all of this. I love this. I love this technology because I'm starting to see changes in the world because of this beautiful technology.
Well, it's a good energy you're giving us.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Yes.
Just go ahead.
There is a Coco Marley. You can unmute and ask your question.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't raise my hand. I don't know why, but I have a question anyway.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
How can we explain when we have newborn and they have cancer or kind of disease? It's due to the parents before the egg and the sperm meet.
You mean like leukemia or something in children?
Any kind of cancer or of disease when they're newborn and they're just born, for example, with cancer or a heart problem. It's not physical.
Yes, it comes because as a human, we have to see the world as a playground. This is another way. It's a playground. You come to the world to have experiences, to make known the unknown. It's not that you come here and you die and it's over. No, it's a playground. It's like going to play a game and you have experience, okay, I'm going to go play football and have the experience to play it, understand, even though you don't like it, but you want to experience that game. That's a way we have to see, we have to start to see the world. We don't die. As a soul, we don't die. We're just having experiences in the body. And there's a way. In a way, yes, we bring information through the DNA of our parents to create diseases. But it's also we want to have that experience through the body. When we come to the body and we have the experience to have diseases, but as well, that diseases, we choose that body that comes through that, with that kind of information to create that disease of head cancer. And yes, and we can change it. Because now we are understanding how we can change everything in the future, I think in the close future, near future, we're gonna be able to change everything in no time, instantly. But now we're learning how to process everything. We're learning how to deal with gains, how to deal with different environments. We change it. I build a health unit, and every week I change it. I have respond. I feel myself. I feel the patients. I started to change it because I want to create a different fields. To have a different response to the body, so we can change. But to answer your question, yes, they come from the information from the parents, but also that's something in the environment during the process of developing inside the womb that sometimes is affected with the pollution that is in the body of the mother. There's drugs. There's some poison inside the body, and affects the cells of that new entity, and it comes with the diseases.
So Professor, it affects the soul because when we have, for example, when a woman takes medicine and she's pregnant, so the medicine affects the physicality of the baby, the soul through the physicality. Is this right?
I don't understand your questions. Say it again, please.
If a pregnant woman is taking she's taking medicine, and because of that medicine, the baby have a physical problem, let's say. So the medicine interact through the physicality of the baby to the soul, because the soul is controlling everything.
Well, as in the process of developing that creature, the new baby, and it's affected, that environment affecting the physicality, and that's why it comes with the different diseases or childborne defects. So it's the physicality. If the soul inside allowed it to do, probably we still don't know if the soul is right. There's you have to have an open mind to understand that, but not necessarily. The soul is in the body when it's growing. The body can come in. The soul can come to the body in different states of the pregnancy, 6 months or at the end. First, you're as a body, you're preserving the life of that entity. You connect it to yourself, the bond. But the soul can come in and out. As I said, you have to have an open mind, and there's a lot of information through different sources. The soul works on the body.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Very clear question.
You're very welcome.
Merci.
Yeah, Rodrigo, may I add? According to the occult studies, the soul corporizes itself into the egg on day 21, supposedly, and it goes to the heart, I imagine, because that's about the only organ that exists when it starts latiendo, it starts beating, and then it starts creating the different veins and nerves, and then the brain, when the head starts forming, and then I imagine the soul goes to the head between the two hemispheres of the brain, the newborn brain, and everything. And now the soul of this new creature looks for the appropriate egg where it's going to materialize, because he knows what he's looking for, what experiences he wants to experiment in his life. He's sort of looking for the different, one specific class at the school to learn certain experiences he hasn't had and he wants to correct.
Yes, you're right. So it's a soul you want to experiment. You want to experiment. As I said, this is a playground, and we see this is a playground. You will, in the future, will understand why we have people that like diseases, like we call them diseases, but are not diseases, like schizophrenia. They're not schizophrenia. They are not healed. They are not sick. In the future, you'll know that as a playground, you have the ability to, or the choice to come and have an experience with one soul, two souls in one body, so many souls in one body. It's a different way we're going to see the whole world in the future, once we understand who we are. We are the souls, and this is a playground that you have experiences. Any questions?
Is the bipolar, Rodrigo, is the bipolar character sort of a type of schizophrenia also?
Yes, as well. Yes, bipolar, schizophrenia, and there's another one. The one that's I don't remember the name of that, have a sexual attraction a lot. Like, what's it called? Nymphomania. It's also, there's souls in the body. There's different souls in the body, and it's like when people start to understand what's going on, they're going to start treating differently all these entities, because we have people that have two souls or three souls, and everyone has the time to choose or to control the body. So sometimes that soul might be an entity that has energy, a man energy that controls a man, and sometimes as a feminine energy controls the body as a feminine. It's not wrong. This is just an experience. Or sometimes that entity that sometimes controls the body and likes to have a lot of sex, and the other doesn't. So it's not that he's sick. The society doesn't understand this process of experiment or games. So the whole system is going to change. I hope soon, because once you understand this, the whole life is going to be different and better.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah, Flint.
If you could address if someone is blind or deaf, we normally think as those senses are non-functional in that person, but that's not true with plasma energy. Is that correct?
It is correct. We have to understand if that comes with when they were born, because they have information through the ancestors, or if they having when they were born, after they were born, or when they were adults. They create that. Some people create or become disabled in a way in order to bring love to them, to bring attention to them. The problems, most of the problems of the society is abandonment from parents. And I'm not blaming the parents, because they went through the same process. It's the system. The system doesn't allow them to understand all this process. And we have to stop blaming everyone. We have to understand to live the now. Whatever happened on the past is the past. It doesn't exist anymore. We have to understand we have the capacity to create whatever we want in the reality. If we stop ourselves in the past because we didn't have love, we didn't have any promise, we keep creating that past. And we have to start blaming our parents. because they didn't do that with intentions to abandon us, to not to give a love. They had the same experiment, the same experiences. Because there's no school, such school as a parent school to learn how to deal with the kids. We don't. The whole system changes every moment. So that's why we have to stop blaming them. Because whatever happened, we're going to create the same thing to our kids. So we have to change it. And we have to understand the past, it doesn't exist anymore. The future, it doesn't exist. When people start living in the present, whatever they want, they will create that present. If they're happy, they create happiness. If they're thinking of the past, they're thinking of being sad, being abandoned, they create same thing over and over again, that abandonment feeling, and they create diseases. They create problems in the body. Stop doing that. That's why in the future we won't have any diseases, not because we create an environment, because we understanding ourselves, start to understanding ourselves, because we can change anything in no time. When we understand that we live in the present, where we live whatever you're thinking, that's what you're creating. If you're thinking not only to have a good body, a healthy body, but a happy environment, happy world, happy citizens, everything, you just keep thinking that thought, you put them in your head, that affecting everything. Somebody asked me the other day if we have to convince people to understand this. We don't have to convince anybody. You will create that environment. If you think, you don't have to knock doors and says, oh, you have to think this way. You have to give this, change the way you're living. If we keep thinking about something, we create that energy and expand that energy, it will affect the rest of the people. We don't have to call them. Eventually, that's why Mr. Jesus keeps saying up to us, you are the souls, you are the creators. You don't need, if you want to travel to the universe, you don't need the body, because you're not the body. You don't need a spaceship. Once you understand who you are, you can control yourself. You can control anything in the environment, anything. You have the power to do whatever you want. You have the power to change instantly the body. How many times Mr. K says we're going to explore the universe and go visit different planets? The beginning, remember when I said that elements in the environment, elements in the environments are different and around every planet, and the interaction between the sun and the other planet brings different elements, so that every planet will have a different elements to create an entity that will live in that planet. And the shape of that entity will be different, will be according to the environment. If their environment is so cold because it's away from the sun, so we'll create entities that can be in that state of coldness. If it's too hot, there'll be different planets. But when you understand that you are the soul who build those bodies, you can, when you understand who you are, you will be able to travel all over the universe and change that, be able to create that body according to that planet, according to that environment. That's how powerful you are. Or we are, and we are understanding. We are in the process to understand all this. It's not going to take, it's not going to be in next day or 2 or 3 days to understand this. It's a process to understand. It takes like practice to understand this, but this is the way we have to think, that we have to live in the present and the now, because you exist in the now, not yesterday, not in the future, now. So whatever you want, you create that constantly.
Dr. Rodrigo?
Yes.
Good day, it's Jalal here.
Jalal, how are you?
How are you, sir? Can I answer? Thank you. Can I answer the gentleman in different way? Why this boy coming with the disease?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. If you just visualize that you are in your community and you want to make a play to the children that they will benefit from this play. So you choose, let's say, a costumes of a chicken, a wolf, any costume that will bring knowledge to the children. So all the grown-up who is making this play, they will agree for someone to play this role, a chicken, a wolf, any kind. So this gentleman or this woman, she will aware this custom to play this role for minute or hour, or so it's minutes and seconds. How much it does is no problem, because she want to teach the children what is the character of this custom. So in this case of this child, there's two parts here: part of the souls and part of the physicality. And when we say this gentleman who is wearing this costume, let's say he is the soul and the body is the costume. So this child came with a disease, not that this child is suffering. No, he's playing one kind of act that he shows the community where he is that there is something wrong. And this community need to change, need to be more cleaner. What is happening with the bodies? What's happening with the situation? So all the souls is agreed that this soul is playing this kind of role, this kind of act. And it's no matter for the soul, because there's no time for the soul. If it takes 1 day of his born, or 1 year or 10 years, because he's playing a role to make something, to change the community, to change the other customs. If we say we are playing this play and we are not notice that the inside, the soul is the creator for this custom. I hope you understand it in a simple way. Thank you, Dr. Rodrigo.
Thank you, Jaled. Yes, it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much. Another question?
Yeah, we'll just do one more here. I'll bring him in here.
Dr. Rodrigo?
Yes?
It's morning here, so good morning. This is Boniface from California.
Yes, Boniface. Go ahead. You broke up. Can you, you're broken up.
Okay, this is Boniface from California. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Go.
Okay, I said thank you for your presentation. And I was tracking with everything until I thought I heard you say a person can have more than one soul. Maybe I misunderstood what you said, but can you clarify that? Because this is not something I had heard before, and maybe you can enlighten me on what you mean by that.
Yes, when we deal with people with schizophrenia or bipolar, those entities in the medical field, we categorize them as a disease. They're illusional way of living, but actually that entities, there are two souls inside of that body. It's like the way the schizophrenia is. Let me put it this way: when you have as a father, you have twins. You have two bodies and two souls. They're different, even though they look alike, they look the same way, but there's souls, they're different souls that have different experiences. One might be a nice guy, and the other one might not be. Or it's different. One likes to be calm, the other one's like to be rough. One might be a very loving entity, the other one not. So you treat them as a father, you understand them and you treat them different because there are different entities. You understand and you give them love no matter what. But as a body also comes with two souls. This is it, two souls. It's like a twins in one body. And you're dealing with them. When they are a child, they're pretty much the same. But when they become not adults, the teenagers, they started to, because the hormones started to react differently. So sometimes that soul, let's put it this way, one guy is a loving entity. It controls the body, and it's a loving entity. You love them. But sometimes the other entity that doesn't like the love is very rough. It like to do some bad stuff. And you blame it, says, oh, he's sick. He's not controlling the body. He has some problems with this entity. And you take him to the hospital, you take him to the psychologist, you take him to the psychiatrist, and they say, yes, we have to put him in the hospital to control them. And they start giving them medicines, giving drugs to block them. And my personal experience, I have experience over 3 persons who have schizophrenia. And they are so afraid to being known they have 2 souls. When I talk to them and they feel they have different souls in the body, and when I talk to the parents and they start treating them different, it's a different way. They start to react, be a good relationship. I have a lady who had a daughter. They have problems. They've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I talked to them what's happened. And I talked to this lady, and it was incredible. Call him a coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidence. That was a reason. But when I talked to this lady with the daughter, it was 29 years old. There was another man before we met her a day before. It has that problems. They're the same problems. It's an adult, and when I start talking about this with a group of people, he reacts as, I had that. Sometimes I can control my body, and sometimes I don't control my body, but I know who's controlling my body. I understand there's another one who's controlling my body. I'm aware of that. But nobody believes me. The people think that I'm sick, and I've been treating with psychologists that I'm sick, and they're trying to put me on the hospitals. And this guy helped me to talk to the lady, this 29 years old. And when we talked to her, it was a very nice, very kind and loving woman. But sometimes when the other souls controls the body, it was like masculine. It likes different kinds of persons or environments, going outside at night to have experiences. But the other one didn't like to go out. But when we talk about that, they have two souls. And the mother realized what she having is twins in one body. And that entity is saying, yes, Mom, sometimes I am in the body, and sometimes the other one is in the body, and we don't receive the same love from you. And you start reacting negatively to the other one. And that's why she started doing things that you don't like. And you blame me. I'm the good one, as the way you see it. So whatever the other entity does, you blame me. That's why I become depressed sometimes. And that's what happened. And most of the people who have schizophrenia, they commit suicide. Why? Because there's 2 entities. The other entity, one of the entities do something, because when they are in the body, it doesn't receive, because it's different. I don't say that it's bad. It's just different. It doesn't receive the love of the parents, and they react against it like any kids, any child. When you don't have love from them, from your parents, you act different. You want to do something to attract their attention. So the other one, who was very loving, they bring the moms, it brings the attention of the parents. They don't have any problems. But the other one, when start doing something bad, they blamed the good one. And so that's why they put them on the hospital. And the one, sometimes the good one, and that's all, he hasn't realized that it's 2 souls in the body. It doesn't understand what's going on. They blame it.
Doc, thanks.
Yes.
Maybe in a future teaching, you can go into more detail here, because this opens a can of worms.
I know.
from my thinking here, because, when we go back to understanding the operation of the soul and what Mr. Kesh has taught. And when we went over the attributes of the soul and, looked at like the 99 attributes that, some even religions have come up with, which we understand is talking about the soul. It's kind of hard to fathom that there is a soul in the body that's, for lack of a better expression, misbehaving, because that's not an attribute of the soul. And so since this subject's come up, I'm thinking, well, this is a condition in a certain percentage of the population, so that's not everybody experiencing that. And since we have a way to process imbalance in the body, or the physicality or the emotion. So if an individual has a case of two souls, is there a way to process that? Or is there a need to process that? And if one is behaving, as you describe it, can't even pronounce the word, schizophrenia.
Yes, schizophrenia.
And, how do we handle that? And I understand in these teachings here, we're trying to be basic here. So maybe you want to bring it up in a further discussion. I don't know, but I'm very interested in how you want to respond to that.
Yes, of course. Interesting thing. Yes.
Okay.
Just to
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you everyone for your wonderful questions. We'll probably have to move on to Jim now for the next section. And thank you very much, Dr. Rodrigo. So yeah.
Thank you, Flint.
Thanks very much, Dr. Rodrigo. There's a huge amount of information there for all of us. Okay, let's get on to the next section. Right, so we're going to carry on talking about the nature and delve a little bit deeper into how plasma science fits into the nature around us. So just a quick review from part 2 and 4 and a bit of the information that we have gone through. Now, we had discussed that just like the human body, all plants are made of billions of gases forming the total plasma of that plant. And we also discussed that plants are interacting with the fields, exactly like Dr. Rodrigo explained with the body. The plants are also only interacting, absorbing with the fields and not absorbing any of the matter state from the environment. And we explained how you create that flow. The plants are receiving a part of their energy from the ground and mainly from above the ground, and part of their energy from below the ground, creating that flow. And so we have all the leaves and the roots interacting with the different fields coming from above and from the ground. And then we went in to explain how each plant is reacting with these fields and the different leaf structures and heights and arrangements all have different field strengths, macro field strengths, and enable to attract and create from the environment the fields of the elements that they need to create the energy. So just like our soul, ourself, the plants have a soul and are also tiny little reactors which are receiving and giving fields all the time. And they also, just like ourselves, tiny little suns interacting with everything around them. So we introduced, we beginning to understand the human body now, and we've introduced the plants world around us, which are the vertical people. So now we just need to go a little bit further into the environment around us. And this is a lovely quote from a book that I'd read recently, Country is Lonely, with the source Dawn Bezarab. And spirituality to Aboriginal people is connected to country and is about relationships, spiritual relationships with the trees, the land, the animals, the sky, the water. Country is not viewed as a bit of dirt with economic value, but as a living entity. And when we look at the soil below our feet, a spoonful of healthy soil contains more living organisms than all the people on Earth. So there's another whole world that we're not aware of, or are aware of, but not consciously. And so within this other world, we have the bacteria and the insects and the fungi and nematodes, and we can go on and on. There's a huge world below our feet and around us. But we have to understand as well that all of these are also living entities, and they are also a plasma with fields, and they're also interacting with each other. And all these living entities have a soul too. So let's have a closer look at our connection now with nature. So when you go out and in nature, in a nice forest area, or your garden, and you look around and you see plants and you'll see a bit of water and soil and the insects and that. But what I see here is nature with hundreds of different souls or reactors, all interacting with each other and the environment. So it's a totally different way of looking at the world around us. So each plant and creature is interacting with the fields from the sun and the earth, and those different creatures and the plants are interacting with each other as well. Sorry, I'm just waiting for the slides to come through. All right, so when we look at a picture, nature tells us a story. We can either see it for what it is, as a stream with some trees and rocks, or we can look at it as nature telling us a story, in that the creek itself is a living entity and playing with the rocks, which are alive. We have different plants all playing together with the trees and the rocks and the water. There is a dance of balance and harmony amongst all the other souls of nature that we're really not aware of. We can come, but we need to ask the rock if we can sit on him, watch and observe how these souls are all interacting together to create this wonderful place. Receive what you need and give back to those others that we have forgotten around that exist. We are very slow.
No problem. We're patient.
All right. Okay, I have another quote here. And it gives you an idea of the original people here in Australia, how connected they were to the land. The tree, he watching you, you look at tree, he listens to you. He got no finger, he can't speak, but that leaf, he pumping, growing in the night while you are sleeping. You dream something, trees and grass, same thing. You grow with your body, with your feeling. If you feel sore, headache or sore body, that means somebody's killing tree or grass. You feel because your body in that tree or earth. Nobody can tell you. You've got to feel it yourself. So when you look at this picture of acres and acres of sort of a crop, how do you feel when you walk through this field with miles and miles of the same crop or grass or trees? And then when you look at this lovely spot in nature, now how do you feel when you walk around in a field of or your garden surrounded by hundreds of different plants and trees? You know, why do we feel so rejuvenated from walking in nature? And why do people living in the city want to escape to the countryside for the weekend? And when they do come to the countryside, feel so rejuvenated from the weekend when they go back to the city. Because as Dr. Rodrigo explained, through our senses, we receive a lot of emotion. And so we get that energy from, in those fields, from nature. So when we look around and we see this tiny little forest with all these different trees, we are interacting with all those different creatures and all their energies, with the water, with the rocks, the insects in the ground, the trees, the different plants. We're all interacting with those fields. And those are the fields which are feeding us emotionally. And it's that amino acid connection that we have. So one is constantly interacting. When you're walking through a forest, you're interacting with hundreds of different fields from the different plants. All these fields are feeding you, and you are feeding your energy to these different creatures. And it's very, very different to when I showed that picture earlier, walking through a field of just one crop, because you're only interacting with the one type of field. Whereas in a forest type setting or beautiful garden, you're interacting with hundreds of different fields. And this is what gives you that additional energy, that emotional aspect of feeling so good in nature. It's because you're interacting with the fields all around you. So when we call for peace on earth, you know, us as human beings again are thinking arrogantly about calling for peace, thinking we're the only ones that matter. What if we called on the billions of insects, the birds, the animals, the trees, the grasses, the fungi, the river, the oceans? They all have a soul, which collectively with us humans make up the soul of the earth. So we need to reconnect with earth and all its creatures. So can you imagine if all of us work together in cooperation to bring about peace on this planet? It would be done. Any questions?
If you're an attendee, you can always raise your hand. I'll bring you in to ask your question.
everybody's gone home.
There was a question in the Q&A that perhaps should be addressed from Frederick. Frederick says he has two questions, actually. Maybe I can just ask them here.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I see. You'd already
Go ahead.
It quite elaborately, Flint. Maybe you should ask the question then.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it was again, this is probably relating more to what Dr. Rodrigo was talking about. When we taste, breathe, or smell, do we transform the gas or particle and then absorb the field of it? Or do we absorb the field of it as a gas or particle? If we transform the gas or particle, how does the body do it? And when we hear sounds, what do we hear? Does the body or does the ear transform the fields to sounds as we perceive it?
We'll have to leave that medical question for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started to write, I see you wrote quite a long response to that detailed response plan. I also was starting to write a long detailed response until I realized how detailed and long it had to get in order to address the question, because it is a very, it's an important question actually, and it's a good one to address at some point in the future, to spend some time with that. How does the body transform the gas or particles, and that transformation into GANs and into plasma and back to GANs and back to matter state and so on. But another time, as we said.
Okay. I guess my question for Jim would be, we always, I guess from our perspective, see it as like your example there of us walking through a forest of the thousands of different life forms in it, and we feel relaxed and feel peaceful and everything. And so therefore, generally, we're always like taking from the forest. Are we giving things back to the forest that the forest would need? Or do the trees and plants think like, oh, great, here's another human we have to deal with. Great.
Coming to suck my energy.
Yeah, coming here to bleed my energy. Yeah.
we got to understand.
It depends on how respectful we are when we go into the forest.
Just by when we walk into that forest, and just if you bend down and you're just looking at a flower or looking at a plant, that attention that you're giving to that plant, you are giving energy to that plant. You are interacting with your fields, and so you are giving. Just admiring, just appreciating nature, just the simple act of observing, looking at trees. You're interacting and you're giving. You know, you are a reactor, and so you are giving off fields all the time, and the plants are the same. So there's this exchange of fields on an emotional level with nature. So just that simple act of observing a plant and just looking at the color, just smelling the flower, gives you that interaction. And so you are feeding that plant.
A lot of people think that, you know, we're the masters of the universe as humans, and that rose plant was put here for our enjoyment so we can go and cut it and make an arrangement out of it as we wish. And that tree was grown so we can cut it down to make boards out of it and build a house. How can that be corrected?
It's because we haven't understood our position with all the other creatures. We've always understood ourselves as intellectually superior to anything else. But when we begin to understand that everything is made of the fields, we all come from the same source of the fields. So we all made of the same, we all are the same and all connected. We just different. And so when we understand our position in relation to all the other creatures around us, then we begin to understand how to behave. But it will take time.
Jim, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Boniface again. You mentioned that there are more living organisms in a handful of Earth than all the people on the planet. Now, there are 7 billion of us, the estimate. And there are some very powerful people and organizations who think that there's too many people on the planet can support. So I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to offer your suggestion that a suggestion on how we may counter that kind of argument. I mean, they claim that the planet should only have like 500 million people instead of 7 billion.
May I help here to answer that? It's Sandor from Hungary.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're louder now. Thank you.
Okay. I didn't want to speak too loudly. I had somebody sleeping in the next room and the walls are thin. So we often hear about this big problem of overpopulation. Is that really a problem? Look at the density of population in some cities where people love to stay. Look at Monaco, for instance. How many people are living per each square kilometer? 12,000 or more? Now, look at the areas which are available for men to live. It will not be on the top of the mountains or in the forests, of course. And just do a calculation, do the mathematics about how much space in square kilometers is needed for 100 million people, or 100 billion people, 100 billion people to live in a crowded area like is Monaco, because Monaco is a place where people love to stay there. Many would like to move there and they cannot. And you will see immediately the answer. There is plenty of space on this planet.
Yeah, thanks, Sandor. It's also a case of us having to really change our understanding of our world. As I say, finding out who we are and everything around us and living differently so that we're not destroying. We've got to learn to live in harmony with everything else.
Yeah. For instance, the Iberic Peninsula, where is Spain and Gibraltar and Andorra and Portugal, could fit about 128 billion people if it was a condition to live in the population density of Monaco. And how much space is left? But why some people are propagating that theory about overpopulation? Are they maybe concerned that there will be too many people which they cannot control them? That may be an answer. The question is not overpopulation, but overpopulation compared to the power of control of individuals by certain groups of power. This is my opinion.
Thank you. And we have all those deserts that can still be cultivated now that we have plasma technology. So there's more than enough room, but I just thought maybe I'll bring it up since we are trying to inform new people.
Thank you. One more question?
Jimmy, I have other relative data that shows we have a lot of space.
Yes, Katwa.
Yes. If you look at China, the size of China relative to the size of Africa, you need 3.16 Chinas to come up with one of Africa. And China has more population than Africa at about 1.4 billion. Africa has about 1.1 billion. Then if you look at India, with about 1.3 billion people, even more than Africa again, but you need about 9.9, close to 10 Indias to come up with Africa. And you look at USA, about 320 million, and you need 3.23 USAs to come up with Africa in terms of size. So that is to Europe, you need 6 Europes to come up with one Africa. And the population is just about a billion, a bit less than a billion, I think 800 million. So if you add all those, China, the population of China, the population of the USA, the population of India, they can all fit into Africa, and even other countries. I can give a list of even more. Europe, USA, China, India, Argentina, all those combined are less in size relative to Africa. They are smaller in size relative to Africa. So we have a lot of space. Africa is usually considered overpopulated. That's the politics of the day and the media hype. That is actually underpopulated because we can fit the whole of India, the whole of USA, the whole of Europe, the whole of China, Argentina, and we will still have space. That's all I had to share. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Katwa. I think there's many ways that one can look at it. But again, we are looking at it from a mathematical point of view, and us as a human being being able to divide this planet up in the way we see fit. But we have to realize that there are many other souls and creatures on this planet as well, and we are part of them. So we have to learn to cooperate and work with all these other creatures in a peaceful manner without destroying our environment, without killing. And this is what this technology is all about. It's for us to realize and understand we have to work together with all the other creatures. And that brings us on to the next section of the soul. So I'm going to hand you over.
Hi everybody, it's Lisa here, and we're going to now discuss the soul aspect of today's teaching. And I'm just waiting for the first slide to come up there. Taking a bit of time to turn the page. Okay. So just to review a little bit from last time so that we remember where we were, we said that the soul creates the physical body in the environment of Earth, and the environment creates the physical body due to the conditions of the planet. And this is the same as our Gans box, where the interaction of the fields between plates in a saltwater condition creates the type of Gans we want. So the creator field, which is our soul, creates a human being. So that was our first thing that we learned. And the principal field of our souls all come from the same source. And essentially we have within us the fields of the universe. And when the fields of the same strength match, they can be given out and taken in freely. And the more we give, allowing for abundant flow of fields coming back in as well as going out. So that is what we had. That is what we had discussed last time. And so we understood as well that the more we give unconditionally, which is the magnetical, the more will be given back to us, which is the gravitational, at our soul strength level. And that is what we'd touched on last time, just to remind everyone. So we're going to go a little bit further into some soul interaction here at a field level so that we can understand how our souls can operate. Sorry, my internet is really slow. Right. So a field interaction between two people at a soul level, what we have is what is magnetical to one becomes gravitational to the other because it gets pulled in. So whatever you give off, somebody else will take, or some other creature or creation will take. And it happens on the opposite way, or the same way from the other person to you. So what is magnetical to the other becomes gravitational to the one that gets pulled back in. So we're constantly feeding one to the other, and there becomes this interaction where we're feeding to somebody else and we are taking from them. So it becomes this infinity loop, as we've learned before, and the infinity loop of sharing fields is not only between one person, but can be or between two people, but can be, obviously is between many. So plasma, just remember, when it takes the shape of the ray when it travels from one point to the other. So when it's being given off from you and taken into somebody else, it's traveling as a ray. So when we're giving and receiving fields with everything, it is with everything in our environment. And just to remind us again of the magnets that we discussed on the previous teachings, that everything is like a little round magnet and is constantly giving and receiving fields. So because last time we had talked about love and how the giving and the magnetical, today we're going to talk about the other side of the coin, you can say, and how do we receive, which is what is gravitational. So you can choose, however, which fields to take in through your senses and emotion. We've seen how Dr. Rodrigo explained how everything comes in through our senses and our emotion. And if you're aware and you consciously are going through life, you can block fields through conscious intent. And what we mean by that is that you can understand that you don't want to match with these fields, and so you don't want to take them in. So what we're normally doing is we taking in fields that match with ours. And if they don't find a match, they don't stay. So we have to decide what fields we're taking in, because like attracts like. And we always have the story where the fields must find a match. And so we have to start understanding how we want to take things in or we want to not take things in. So just to kind of bring it down to how we deal with life in general, often we see people who repeat the same issues in their lives. So repeating the same issues in your life is a magnetizing of the same fields and patterns, creating more layers of the same negative emotions over and over again. And we also like to find a position where we feel comfortable with the fields, good or bad. So often we'll stay in a situation because it's matching the fields we always used to, and so we're used to gravitating them in. And that is how we tend to build and gravitate and pull things into us all the time and build negativity. So we also tend to pull in fields of those things that we seek, consciously or unconsciously. Are you looking for people who validate your need to confirm your beliefs? Generally, yes, you'll find them. Why? Because that's who you'll look for. Are you looking for someone you can save? You'll find that difficult person that gives you a hard time because now you satisfy your own need to try and save them. I've seen this with many people that I know. They constantly moan that, oh, you know, another relationship has failed because they don't understand their needs and what they are seeking comes to them, even if they don't actually want that's the thing that is coming to them. So how do we take in the fields that help us? This is the big question. How do we gravitate things that are things that we need? We need to take responsibility for ourselves. A field cannot find a match for something that isn't there. So look closely at why you deal with people or have certain emotions about things or people. And are you stuck in the same pattern, small or big? It's quite important just to start understanding ourselves and how we operate generally with other people. So I remember last time Boniface asked me about ego, and I had a good think about this ego story, and I thought it was very, very relevant to the gravitational or the fields that we're bringing in, because I wanted to try and explain what I thought ego was in the plasma science and the fields. So an ego is actually a feeling of self-importance, placing yourself in a position of superiority. And I just thought, you know, consciously reinforcing your sense of, I know this, I can do this without others, or assuming you have the answers. So what is going on here? Most of us feel insecure when we don't know the answers or feel stupid when confronted with new information that we haven't processed. Most of us, to some degree, therefore, started deaden this discomfort by creating an ego. So we constantly try to pull in those fields that bolster our existing field strengths, which make us feel we are better than the other. And it's a form of cognitive dissonance which is created. I'm sure some of you have heard of cognitive dissonance, and ego is one of those forms of cognitive dissonance. As a plasma, we are connecting with and pulling in the fields that match with what is already there, constantly trying to build this ego, to not feel silly or to feel insecure. We constantly just build the fields that make us feel stronger. So how do we counter the ego? We need to open our minds and our hearts. And your soul has every field strength of the unicos. So the field of everything is there to match, if not blocked by the emotions. Be open to new knowledge and explore it all with an open mind to learn something new every day. Listen instead of just hearing. Gain knowledge instead of just experiencing. The term knowledge seeker is used for a reason. So understand those with an ego are trying to cover their own insecurity. Consciously decide not to be afraid of not knowing. I think that's quite important, and that's been something that's been a great life lesson to me, is to learn to be comfortable with not knowing something and wanting to find it out. And I think most of all, be humble, because we're here in this physical reality to know the unknown. And by doing so, we gain field strengths and more fields of every description, which helps us to elevate ourselves. And it's no good just building the fields of the strengths you already have. The point is to try and build the fields of the things you don't already have in this physical, because yes, you have it all in your soul, but we need to build it at that soul level too. So also, how do we grow in other ways? Most of us fear change. Change means facing something new, which can be scary. And know that you are the creator of your life, and you can handle change if you work with intent and the right ethos. So you make the path for the fields to flow by doing the action. So now we create the change we want to see and be in the world. And this is how we need to live from now on. So I hope that made sense to everybody, trying to work on how to pull in the fields and a little bit on the ego from last time. And if anybody's got any questions.
Again, you can always raise your hand. I'll bring you in to talk. Any questions, anybody? I'm not seeing too much here in the chats on YouTube or Facebook.
There is a comment or question in the chat here.
Oh, okay. On live stream?
Ralph? No, in the Zoom chat.
Oh, okay.
It says, I guess this was, no, it was 10 minutes ago. It says, I do not understand the concept of giving unconditionally. Is not a condition mandatory in order for the fields to link up and to be able to move through?
The conditions that we set for giving, when we say we must give unconditionally, it means that you give without expectation of receiving. And you give, the thing is, if you give, even if you're specifically giving to a person or a thing or a something, it must be without any conditions attached, because as soon as you create conditions, you're expecting something back, and expecting something back always makes sure that your wishes might not be fulfilled for a start, and you're not doing it out of the giving of the soul. You're giving it to receive, and as soon as you're giving it to receive, it's not done in the right ethos. So I know it's really hard to understand this, because we all like to set conditions. We all like to set parameters. We like things tightly in a little box. But if I give love and I send it out there without condition, then whoever needs it can take it. If I give love to somebody that doesn't necessarily want it or need it at the time, maybe I get disappointed because I don't get back any kind of attention or some kind of recognition for that by that person. And that makes me feel unhappy then. But if I give it out unconditionally and it goes to wherever it needs to go, and I'm not expecting anything back, then a few days later, when I get a surprise from somebody and they come and give me a hug because they just want to, I'm receiving something back, but there are no conditions, and I can see it as something beautiful. And yes, it's a difficult one, but it's kind of just being in the now, that you're not too worried, because at the soul level, we are all giving and receiving all the time. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Maybe as a follow-up to that, it's one of those things that are easier said than done. So maybe you could give some pointers or tips on how to give unconditionally for those that have a trouble envisioning that.
The question has two parts. One is how to give, and the second part is conditionally or unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
So which is not clear, because unconditionally means without to expect anything in return. That's very simple. Now, how about how to give? Because we give so many things. We give good things, we give bad things, and so on. You know that saying, If you sow wind, you will reap whirlwind. So we are creating our own reality, whether we know that, whether we don't know. By what we give out, we get something in exchange. Now, the point is to give out that which you would like to get back. If you give out hate, what you will get in exchange?
More of it.
Yeah. If you give out a face palm, you will get a punch back. How about if you give out love? What can you expect in exchange? How about if you grant life? What can you expect in exchange?
And it's just how we do things, you know, in terms of if you are doing something, to do it with joy, with happiness, and with love, with the action of serving, it has a different feeling to just plodding along, doing your daily whatever. It creates different fields and different energy and something else that's going out there.
Hello, Lisa.
Go ahead.
Hi, Boniface.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say what Delph says in the chat about this. First, they say, I understand what you mean to simplify, to give without strings attached. Thank you. And then he goes on to say, I would rather give to those that need than those that do not. That's a condition I impose on myself as well. I will not take what I do not need, because if I do, I will not stop taking and I will waste and abuse. What do you have to say about that statement? Is there anything?
Well, definitely you cannot give by enforcing for somebody to take. You can only give what is accepted.
And that's a hard one, because that's when you all start out in plasma and we all want to share with everybody the understanding and share all the plasma, and a lot of people are not ready for it. And, you know, you're banging your head against a brick wall, and you have to accept that you know, you give unconditionally, but it doesn't have to be accepted. It's that person's right to not. So that's, again, you're expecting, the condition is you're expecting something back.
So that would go with love as well. We're talking about unconditional love, which is the case where you're basically putting out this vibration or this level of on the love level, and not expecting anything back, not expecting to gain a partner or to gain a, you know, some sort of higher part in a corporation or something from it. It's, or money out of it or anything like that. It's just doing it because it's I think it's what the soul does. It just gives love. That's what we're asked in the core group of the Keshe Foundation. That's the prime thing to do, is to give from the soul. You don't have anything else you have to do, just give from the soul. So it makes it so simple in a way, because you don't have to worry about receiving or transactions or interactions or anything. You just give from the soul. And what is giving from the soul? Well, it's like Sandra was saying, it's very simple. It's give, and most of us know what give means, and soul. And most of us, when we at least question ourselves somewhat, we know what that word means too. So
can you give sorry for I'd like to insert.
No, go ahead.
Can you give somebody a nice red box of packed love. Can you give love packed into a fancy box?
Yeah, it's called a box of chocolates.
Yes, it's not love, it's chocolate. It can be just a habit, or because you feel that somebody requests that, or because other reasons. But you cannot give love in a matter form. Of course, if you love somebody, you also contribute to its existence. So, and there is another point to giving unconditionally, because we all are ready to give when we have enough for us and we give the surpluses. It's so when we have something which we don't need, we are very easy to give it out. Like you walk on the street and you find somebody who would deserve a better life in a miserable condition, trembling of cold, being thirsty or being hungry. Giving unconditionally means to give when there is need for it. You cannot say, oh, okay, I see that homeless beggar, so maybe tomorrow after I receive some money on my bank account, I will give him. You cannot do that because tomorrow he will not be there. You have to give when it is needed. And when you say, okay, now I have a pocket full of small change, or I have a big bag full of hamburgers and I now walk on the street to feed the hungry, you will find none of them. You just cannot give when you want, but you have to give when it's needed. Be it in a matter form, or be it just through you giving through your soul, giving your love, giving your appreciation, giving your admiration. There are so many things the soul can give.
It's a bit similar to what Jim was saying about the just acknowledging the fact that the plant is there, you are giving it your fields, and just by acknowledging another soul, it doesn't matter what kind of soul it is, human, animal, whatever, and saying, I see you, is already giving them fields that you are giving them unconditionally.
That's a great thing. Somebody some decades ago called that granting beingness. To grant beingness to somebody, what does it mean, beingness? The ability to be, the state of being. You meet somebody on the street, you look at him, and you feel good about he is there, even without opening your mouth. Of course, you can say, hello, what are you doing, neighbor? Are you cleaning the leaves? Yes, I do. And you see, he becomes more bright. He becomes more cheerful. It doesn't matter how he felt before, just by granting him this little attention. I lived, when I was a kid, I lived in a smaller community in a big village. Now it's a town. But there it was a habit. When you walked on the street, you greeted everyone who came, does not matter he was from your street or from the next village or from other city. And that's the natural way. In the same way, you greet all the beings, be it a bee, be it a flower, be it an ant, and you see how peaceful you become, and the environment, how peaceful it becomes. I had my smallest daughter when she was at the age of 3 years. When she woke up, she used to greet everybody and everything. He said, hello, dining room, hello, table, hello, keyhole. She was in very good relationship with her environment, believe me. Wouldn't that better than just saying, oh, what the hell is with this chair? Somebody left it in my way and now I have to go around or to move it back. What's the difference? Isn't it just your attitude? Learn to be happy about what is around you in the world. Don't be hateful and don't be angry of what stays in your way. Accept that those things, those beings, or even those objects exist. And you will find your way, don't worry. I'd like to point something else about such a giving from the soul. Mr. Keshe tries to teach us so many years about a very simple thing. You see, you make a coil for a health pen, or you make a GANS, you put it in a patch, or you make a cup of life, or you make a maglev unit, and you expect something to get from that. You don't realize that your soul is that which channels all the creator abilities, all the creation, the power of creation. And in order to get, you have to give first. This is hard for many to understand at this level. Think about how many people have a small gadget like a amulet, for instance, be it a shiny stone, or be it a crossword on their chest, or whatever, or a health cup, or a cup of life, or whatever. And they feel good that they say that amulet or that object gives them luck, gives them health, gives them fortune, or protects them, defends them. Why does that happen? And the same objects in the hands of others have no effect at all, or sometimes they have a negative effect. Is it because of that little gadget, or is it because what you give through your soul to that one, what you radiate out, finally you will get back those fields? Try to understand it. Try to understand how the center of the universe has some power of creation there, has all the love there, which radiates out. It gets in the matter form at the extremities when the fields go back to their origin. And think about your soul has inside that little emptiness, according to the MRI scan of your brain, like Dr. Rodrigo told you at the beginning. Where is the location of your soul? And what you have there? You have the principal matter, you have the connection to the center of the creation, you have the connection to the center of the planet, to the center of the sun, to the center of the central sun of the galaxy, and ultimately to the center of the universe, and more the center of the unicos. You have that power within yourself. You can use it to create, to radiate out. And what you give out, some will be accepted by other beings or creatures or entities, call them whatever you want. And some part of the fields will come back. And whatever you give out, wouldn't you give it, get it back in exchange also from the connections which your soul has with the center of the sun, or with the center of the central sun of the universe? Ultimately to the soul of the creator of the unicos? Think about that. I know it's hard for many people to understand that. You see, so many people make a GANS, and they make a patch, and just recently I saw in the Romanian language Facebook study group that somebody managed for first time to make a small kit to produce some CO2 GANS or zinc oxide GANS, or a mixed zinc oxide with CO2. But he put a lot of love there. And he wrote us a day after he harvested that GANs, he wrote us that he washed out the souls of the GANs, and because he had a high temperature, he has got a cold or he had some other health issue, he put that GANs in a vial and he put it near his bed with intention to get healed. But first he put his love, he put his trust, he put his faith into that GANs. Don't forget it. And he said in the night he started to sweat strongly, like if he would take some aspirins, but he didn't take any medicine. So he had to move that vial a little further, 3-5 meters from the bed, and finally he had a good sleep. Also, he made another patch or another vial for his father, who was suffering of some chronic, probably a prostate problem or some other urinary infection that in the past 3 years he was not able to retain his pee, but he had very often unexpected moments the need to pee, and finally in one day, after using that GANs created with love and given with love, he just got his issue solved, and now his bladder works normally. And others are making the same, and they are looking with suspicion, or they are doing with purpose to prove it's something which will not work. And what's their intention? That they will get it back. You have to realize that these objects in matter state, which you make, which you can see and feel, these are some gadgets, finally, which are good in the learning process to let you understand that there is something, because you cannot accept something without being able to see it or to touch it. But ultimately, these are just tools for the fields of your own soul to produce the effect which you desire. If you have a cup of life made with plasma waters or GANs or whatever things, what is the intention? What is your wish you put in that you will get it back? If your wish is life, the cup will give you life. If the wish is to end your life, that will be what you will get back. But the power is within your own soul. So you may understand why now the public teachings, we go to the next section. It's announced by Mr. Keshe in the 194th Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Teachings will go to our teachings about the soul. That's the next level.
Thanks, Sandor. Can we just get, if there are any more questions?
Yeah, sorry for long speech, I finished.
Oh, thank you, Sander.
I know Boniface was wanting to ask a question there.
Yeah, Lisa, wanted to thank you for the presentation. Actually, I put my note on the chat because I thought we were running out of time. But I do not, well, I appreciate the section on the ego. I thought it was very good. Though I don't recall asking that question. I appreciate getting credit for it.
I remember you asking me last time, what is the ego?
Yeah, I know I've asked you some questions, and I'm looking forward to you discussing those. This wasn't one of them, I don't think, but you know, I take credit anywhere I can get it.
I know somebody asked me about the ego, but I had to think carefully because it's all in plasma, so it needed to be in a plasma answer. And we were talking about gravitational and what we are pulling in, and I thought, well, it was a really good explanation of what we are pulling, the fields that we pull in, intentionally or unintentionally often.
I agree, and it was good. I appreciate it.
Another example of unconditional love would be, I guess, what we feel with our pets. And that's probably why we have pets, cats and dogs and other animals. And often we can relate to them in an unconditional way, but we actually find it more difficult to relate to humans in the same way that we treat our pets.
Most definitely, because they don't react the same as what pets often do, because pets just give, you know, and they give unconditionally, and so we can give unconditionally. That's why many a time in my younger years I've really preferred the company of my animals a lot of the time, until I've learned how to deal with people a little bit more successfully and not take too many things to heart, because if you don't match that field, you won't take it in. So you don't need to take on other people's bad things if you consciously choose not to. This is what we haven't understood, is that you know, just as hard as it is to give unconditionally, we need to understand every operation of the soul, not just the giving, but what we're pulling in. And, you know, you're going to pull in those things that you give off, or you're going to pull in those things that you are seeking. Just like when I say, you know, if you're going to, for example, you want to, you like to feel good about helping other people, let's say, and that is your own gratification, so it's not unconditional, then suddenly you're always finding, you're looking for a partner, and you're always finding that person that always supposedly needs saving because they actually don't match well with you and they give you a hard time. And so you're getting, in a way, what you are looking for, although you wouldn't say so. So we need to really just start stepping back, understanding who we are and what our motives are a lot of the times, and to stop having these motives often. And then things seem to unfold, because if you give unconditionally, you will get back what you need in some form or fashion. And it's just that realizing that and consciously living each day with good intention and wishing to serve others and help others along the way, and giving what you can makes all the difference. But yes, those pets, there's nothing like a wonderful dog. And maybe when we can get the plants to sing, we can even have our plants all around us that we can interact with too. If anyone has seen the singing plants, it's just an aside.
Yeah, we talked about some of that in the private classes.
Yes, it was on the Gardeners and Growers, yeah. Yeah, Rick?
Got a question in the live stream here I'd like to ask. It's from Marin, who says, if several human souls manifest the same intention at the same time, can they send unconditionally love for a weakened soul who manifests his desire to be helped?
Yes, but it would not be specific. I suppose it would be specifically aimed at that person if there was alignment, if that's what those souls needed to do and that's what the other soul wanted to accept and there was alignment. Yes, you could.
For example, a crude example would be just going to a hospital if somebody's in, had an operation or something, and the friends and family show up just to show their intention to, show their love for this person, to sort of help them through this critical period.
Well, that kind of opens up the question about prayer. What is prayer? And also plasma banking.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic for another day. Yeah. But yes, it's a case of what we have to understand is when we are wishing, and this is one of our other topics too, when you are wishing, your wishes have to align with all of those around you. If you're wishing for something contrary, you're not going to receive it. So the more souls that are aligned in the wish, the more the fields create the wish, because all the souls are working for the wish. So the trick is to wish for things that are in alignment, which means for the benefit of everybody, not just yourself. And so, yes, even like distance healing in terms of, you know, people joining together. I mean, I've heard of many situations, for example, where there will be some kind of a meditation in a certain city where they will meditate for peace, and the crime rate drops for that specific amount of time, just intending for the peace, not necessarily going for one specific person. And I mean, your criminals are not asking for the love, but you're elevating them at a soul level anyway. Because maybe they are asking for the love at their soul level, but not at a physical level that you would see.
And Delph says, isn't that forcing?
You can only force, if you have two souls, you are each of you have the souls that are, it's the fields of the creator, so you match. So if you're giving unconditionally, it will match, because you're matching with the soul, which is the creator source. It's the physical part that doesn't necessarily want to match. The fields of the physical, the souls always match, because it all comes from the same source, which is the creator. And if it all comes from the same source, it will always find a match.
Perhaps that could look like forcing sometimes to the physicality in some circumstances, maybe.
It's a difficult one, but yeah, I've toyed with this question of, you know, what's consent and what's not consent. But I think if you're just giving love unconditionally from your soul, every other soul is aligned with that, because it matches.
Lisa, I wonder what, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Boniface here. There's something I've been thinking about, and since we know that the soul is our creator, I figure no one knows what we need better than the soul. So when it comes to trying to address something or giving something or helping someone, I've been focusing on trying to elevate the individual soul, trusting that that soul can provide what the person needs, as opposed to me specifically asking for this, that, or the other thing for their physicality or the emotion.
That's
I wonder
exactly
what you think about that.
That's exactly right, Boniface. You know, unless they ask specifically for something. But yes, if you just give unconditionally, soul to soul, and wish for their elevation, that's you know that is going to have an effect, rather than trying to, because again, that's putting conditions. If you're trying to, you know, match in the physical. I mean, yes, you see somebody walking down the street that needs your assistance because they need your shoulder to lean on because they're limping. Yes, give them a hand. But while giving them a hand, there's, you know, you can help to elevate them through the soul level too.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Kesh has talked about the idea of non-attachment as well involved with that. So part of that giving unconditionally is to give with non-attachment, so there isn't you know, the complication of excess emotional barriers and that sort of thing in between.
This is the hardest part of all, I think, because I just find sometimes I look at the ills in the world and you know, the poverty and the difficulties, and I just want to sit and cry, you know, because that's that's how I feel often about the world. But when you start understanding that you can do something about it, not necessarily give everybody money or give, you know, we will eventually be able to, with the plasma, start creating the abundance instead of the scarcity. But at this stage, all we can do is give from our soul in those circumstances. And at least you know you are doing something to help the situation by giving from your soul.
Hello, Lisa. This is Alberto from the United States.
Hi, Alberto.
When we see the condition that surrounds us and the planet, and we sit down and cry, have you any idea of the energy that we are releasing? The energy, this is energy from our soul that is actually helping humanity. When we are crying for humanity, we are actually giving so much of our soul to humanity. It is changing humanity just by sitting down and crying when we see this, the conditions. This is very, very powerful stuff. We're giving from the deepest part of our soul, our emotion. So that's a beautiful thing that you do when you see the condition that the planet is in and you sit down and cry. That is probably the most beautiful thing that you can do. You're giving, totally giving so much. And about free will, I wanted to comment something on free will. When we see a parent, a loving parent, whose child decides that she wants to play in the middle of the street, in the middle of traffic, does the parent interfere with the child's free will by going and getting her off the street? If the child knew the danger she was in, she would not object. She would not cry when the parent comes and picks her up and puts her back in safety. And this is what's happening with humanity. All this killing, all this stealing, all this lying, all this cheating. If humanity only knew where we were, we would not object to being helped by our universal community brothers and sisters, and even those of us who are actively engaged trying to uplift all life on this planet. And I understand this is a basic class for beginners, but we've already gone off into this deep topic level of conversation, and there's no way out of it now. So, but this is what I want to say. I want to say that when someone needs help and it is not interfering with them if we give them that help, and I'm not talking about at the physical level, the best work we can do is done in the unseen, at the spiritual level, in our emotions. So yes, if you see humanity suffering and you feel like crying, just sit down and cry your heart out, because you are giving so much when you do this. You are uplifting humanity at the soul level, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Alberto. I cry when I'm happy too, so it's one of those things I do it quite easily.
Okay, we got
if
a few.
I may something, we have to understand this, the plasma. Now we were dealing with this. We understand when we make GANs how the stronger GANs feeds the weaker. How understand the flow of energy from the higher, from the strongest to the weakest. So understanding conditional love. First of all, you have to love yourself. You cannot give if you don't love yourself. You have to become stronger, like a plasma, like a GANs, in order to give. When you love yourself and give, that's unconditional love. You have to love yourself. If you're just giving whatever without loving yourself, you're an unable person. You're destroying yourself. You become weaker. So you have to love yourself in order to give love. That's unconditional love, like a plasma.
Yes.
Got a quick question, Lisa. I'm sorry.
I have several other people lined up here in questions, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask Lisa, were you going to give something on the operation of the soul down the line somewhere specifically?
In terms of?
Well, how to elevate the soul. I know we've talked about it in different quarters, but in this particular forum, are you going to do something specifically relative to that?
Well, all these little things that we're talking about, you know, what is giving, what is receiving, all these, you know, magnetical, gravitational, that is in a sense
Right.
how the soul is operating. So, you know, I think it's going to, I'm trying to unfold this as it's unfolding, the teaching.
Yeah.
So we'll see where we go.
Okay. I've something that's helpful to me, and it has to do with music, but in the interest of time, let me pass on it today.
Thanks, Boniface.
Okay.
What's your question?
Hello, this is Nicholas.
Yeah.
Hi, Nicholas.
Thank you, Lisa. And just in holding the continuity of our conversation here, just to appreciate what Dr. Rodrigo is speaking of there, is a very simple idea, you know, to love yourself, to be able to love. And to go back to a little bit of the basic ideas that we give from our soul. The interesting question is, what does it mean to receive from our soul? And to go with that, in some ways, we say, all we have to do in order to serve or in order to give is to actually get out of the way. Because in healing, for instance, the energy is already there in the field, and we tend to actually get in the way of that energy flowing. So to experience from the soul is different than to experience from the mind. So at the point I think, well, I'm going to give so I can receive, that's a pretty much of a mental thing. You know, if you're thinking about giving and you're thinking about receiving, you aren't in the experience of the soul, you're in the experience of the mind. So at one point, all of that dissolves into the experience of itself, because one has gotten out of the way and one is in the flow of what is happening at a higher vibration, a higher level. It's kind of like going into nature, and you're in nature and you're sitting there thinking, oh, how beautiful this is. And so your mind is thinking it's beautiful, where your soul is in the experience. And so to experience from the soul, in some ways, we have to let go of the mind. And the mind that's saying, oh, that's beautiful, because in the beauty of it, there are no words. And so I guess this gets back to this giving and receiving. If we're giving to receive, that's somehow being in the way of it, getting in the way of it. If we're giving because we're giving and we're able to recognize the situation and respond to it because we're a part of it, and knowing that it doesn't matter how much we give because it's going to flow. It's a part of the flow. Whatever we give comes back. So that just opens up the gate. Let's go of the fear. Don't worry about giving because there's always more. Don't worry about loving because there's always more love. because one is in the flow of it. So that's just some comments to share. And so there it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you, Nicholas. I got a couple of people here, Aaron Schwartz and Tyler P. And we'll start with Aaron. Go ahead and unmute. You had a question there you asked in Q&A. Thought you could probably come in and just ask that personally. If you're able to unmute there, Aaron. Okay. See, you're unmuted, but yeah, hello?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I was just wondering about auras, and as you increase your plasma or as you purify your soul, are you able to see people's auras more clearly and the colors in them, and able to see the auras of the plants and the spirits of the animals?
I'm sure it's different for every person. Some of us see, some of us feel, some of us, you know, it's practice, and it's sometimes different for different people. Just like what you see as blue may be not exactly what I see as blue. The aura specifically, we've heard from Mr. Kesh, is more the energy given off by your physical body. The soul is something slightly different, and it's the more transparent it is, the stronger it is, or the I don't know what the higher the strength of the soul. So it's something I think that, you know, each of us experiences in their own way. Everybody is different.
Okay, so it has more to do with one's self-initiation and practice than anything to do with plasma then, with the spiritual sciences?
Yes and no. You know, everything has a field strength, but how you perceive that field strength is your own perception. Just like, for example, my anger is not the same as your anger, for example. This is why it's when you give something conditionally and you're expecting something back, it's not always the same, because an emotion, the strength of an emotion is different to you and to me. So everything that we perceive is individual. So it comes down to, you know, everything is perceived differently by each person. Me personally, because I have vision problems, I feel the fields. I don't really see them, whereas a lot of people see with the plasma, they see literally like almost like a steamy smoke with certain of the plasma devices, and how they perceive that energy flowing. Whereas I can rather feel it as a cool or a tingle, or I actually always feel it in my feet. So it depends on, you know, on just your perception on things.
And also I'd like to add that after working with people in the Kesh Plasma Reactor Group for over 4 years now, I've seen transformations occur where people might have said that they don't feel the fields, or they aren't able to perceive the fields from MagRav devices or GANSs and that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden one day, I know one example where the person involved put their hand inside a device that he had created. And he said during one of the workshops, I can feel that the fields in this device are stronger than the one that I built last week, you know, in reference to his new improved device. I said, what? After building 100 MagRavs, you can now you finally feel the fields? Because you've never said that you could feel the fields before. And he went, yeah, that's right. So my point is that people do change. It's not like you're necessarily, some people are born with the ability to maybe see auras and that kind of thing. They might learn at an early age, but others can, accumulate those abilities through just trying and just continuing to attempt to feel the fields or see the fields. Like you're saying, there's different methods that people use in order to get some sort of handle on these subtle fields, which are not necessarily, right there in your face, literally able to see them with great clarity. It might be very subtle. So
absolutely, I see what you're saying there, and how like someone would, as they felt more of the coils that they were exposing and like tuning in and feeling, starting to get the smaller sensations, and then also probably as they did more, they felt them better and it got stronger fields that they were putting out as well.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So it'd be both conjoining that then gives you your totality.
Yeah, it becomes kind of a symbiotic relationship, whether it's with a maggrav or the ganses that get created or various other devices, and maybe it's a health pen or some other coil arrangement. And you start to interact with it and actually use these devices. And then your body adapts and it becomes a mutual reciprocal initiation, you might say.
Thank you.
What I also find is if you are weaker in something and that device has got strong fields in something you lack, then you feel it pretty strong. That's what I've discovered too. If I'm lacking in calcium, for example, and I go and hold my bottle of calcium gans, I can feel it pulsing in my hand. Whereas if I do that and then I go the next day, then I don't feel it as strongly because I don't need as much of those fields as I did the day before. So there's not as much flow.
I've got another question. My mom does energy healing in the sense of she's always like holds on to whatever energy point, I guess it is, that needs to be worked on, and then she spins her arm one way, she says, taking out like negative energy, and then she feels when it's done and then spins the other way, putting in positive energy. And I've kind of tried doing the same thing with pain pens and like handheld maggrav, and it seems to kind of work that way. Like you can feel the subtle energies. Is that like a proper way of doing it, or?
You understand that whatever you're doing, it's because of your intent, not because of the tool.
Okay.
So if you're intending to do that, that is what you're doing.
Okay, so it's just like the law of attraction and you're just projecting your own reality.
Well, if
there's some bases in terms of say magnetical and gravitational flows might be in opposite rotations, for example, or there might be some justification for opposite rotations. It's kind of like winding the coils and so on. There's an ingoing flow and an outgoing flow.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Can we go for a last one or two?
Yeah, we have Tyler P. who's been waiting here for quite a while. Go ahead,
Okay.
Tyler. Ask your question.
You guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
It's all good. Yeah, I guess like I don't really have a question as such. I've been following the Keshe Foundation for a few years now. Back when Kevin like just started off with everything, and some very interesting things have happened during that time. For instance, you guys are talking about the MagGrav systems and being able to like feel the fields. I've experienced this with people, like being able to like feel the intentions of individuals, which is like completely mind-blowing. And it happened for a series of like probably 3 months in total, where I was able to like feel another person's intentions and feelings before they sometimes even were able to act on it, which is a very, very interesting idea. And I don't know if anybody else has had the same sort of thing happen.
I think this is part of elevating ourselves. This is where we're going to next. Yeah. And we have to be open to this because, you know, language and words are only perception. And I've discovered through this work that, you know, what I say is not necessarily what you hear, but what I intend. And if you understand what I intend, there's no deception there, and there's no room for not understanding. So that is the next level of where we need to go. And yes, when I've worked intensely with the Gansers at one stage, not necessarily the intent of people, but I could actually feel different energy radiating off them. It's like when they were a bit aggravated with me, or I could really feel it, sense it very strongly, almost like a slap in the face.
Where would you sense it normally? Like, where would the feeling come from? Because from what I've experienced, the feeling is coming from like my heart. So like within, it's like a pressure that you sort of feel. And the pressure will get more dense if the person is, you know, either holding on to something like emotionally that they shouldn't, maybe something they need to let go, or maybe it's anger, and then you can feel when people are relaxed. It's really interesting, and maybe this is what animals can kind of pick up on.
I'm sure it is. All you must realize from this is just not to get sucked into it, and just be able to sort of stand back in the third person and not take it on, so that you understand what's going on and not get
yeah, I can understand how you can really kind of go down kind of a bit of a dark tunnel, because that did happen to me for a couple of months. I mean, this experience happened about a year ago now, and I've kind of like moved away from it slightly for the reasons of, you know, when you're out in public, all you can feel is like, you know, a bunch of pretty much like lost people. As you know, it sounds a little bit down, but
it can, but then if you start with that practice of giving unconditionally, you feel like you are helping in some way and serving in some way. It goes a long way to stopping that. I don't know. It does make you feel a bit helpless, because you just don't know what to do with that. You know, getting those people's feelings of you know, the feelings you don't necessarily want to feel. But if you are giving unconditionally to help to alleviate that as much as possible in whatever shape or form, it goes some way to helping you to deal with that.
Yeah, sort of what I was trying to figure out from, you know, the early onset was like the reasons why people were the way that they were. And I was kind of like studying psychology and like history and business, and like the effects of, you know, different effects of marketing and the principles of why people are drawn into certain things. And then I kind of got down this channel, sort of, it actually, like all of this sort of happened, like this understanding of this knowledge sort of was solidified when I was meditating outside at a beach. And using this ability, like this feeling in my heart, this, you know, basically like a feeling of love, and projecting it outwards. into nothing, like not a person, but just into the sky. Like it's sort of like a feeling of like appreciation of just living, like life. And I was projecting it out, and suddenly like these lights just appeared in front of me, like, you know, the orb lights that I don't know how many people have seen them here, but I've seen them quite a bit. And it got to the point where I was just like, I can make this happen, or something's happening with this. And I brought some friends along, and they witnessed the exact same thing, and they were quite gobsmacked about it. And I kind of pulled everybody through a bit of an experience nobody can really, like, you know, understand, and people kind of just put it behind them, and we've kind of all just sort of moved on. But we continuously think about it, and we're like learning these small teachings, because like with this knowledge, when you're able to drop these egotistical traits that don't really serve us, you find that you connect to, like, I don't know, maybe a collective consciousness in one sense, where you're able to draw these really profound truths from the most simplest things in day-to-day life. It just changes your perception of or your perspective of life itself. It's very interesting, but I'm not too sure how far people have gotten with this, but I've kind of wanted to share my experience for quite a while, but I wanted to sort of really solidify what that experience was, and like moving forward, like realizing that it wasn't a bad thing, and kind of being able to try to categorize whether or not sharing that information is good for people to hear or not. And I kind of wanted to make sure that my experience at the end was, you know, a positive one, and we're moving towards something that is, you know, better, rather than moving into more, you know, misconceptions and you know, like confusion. And, you know, I want something good to come of it. I don't know if anybody else has experienced the same sort of thing, or if I'm completely going down a different track. But yeah, so sort of like early on as well with Kesh's teachings, he was talking about, you know, creating these energy systems and all this other stuff, and my mind just clicked, and I was just like, he's not talking about creating free energy realistically. I mean, if he is, at the end of it, it's, you know, great power requires great wisdom, you know, where if we did stumble upon something that was extremely powerful, then we need to have the knowledge on how to use it. And so that's where I kind of was just like, okay, there's something else happening here. And these are the problems that need to be addressed. And the problems aren't outside of us, they're within us. Our world is a projection of, you know, our inner struggles. It's a manifestation of ourself. And collectively as well, we can only move as fast as the souls or the people around us. We can't just elevate ourselves and move out of everybody, like move out, you know, outside of everybody else, because then we're alone and our human experience is sort of diminished. So we need to like move collectively, like together. Yeah, I don't know how far I should go with this, but what do you guys think of this?
Thanks. You know, you're sharing your story, which is, I'm sure, connects with a lot of other people's stories. We all on the path to learning and knowledge, and every bit of experience we have, as long as we take that experience and learn from it and create wisdom in ourselves by that experience, that is what we're here to do, and that is what will elevate us as much as the giving, because you know, wisdom helps you to give better. So all of your experiences, I'm sure, are shared by many here, and the nice part is we're not alone. There are many like us, but we all have our own paths, and that's everyone is on their own path and their own level of understanding, and that's fine, because we'll all get there in the end, as long as we have the correct intention.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Anyone else? Flint, I think we're going to have to wrap up.
No, I think we're finished here for today.
Yeah, we're going to have to wrap up, and it was quite an interesting soul session, and I'm glad we all shared with each other, and thank you everybody for all your input, and I'm sure we all grow together in the knowledge. And thank you everyone for coming together, and we can all learn together. Shall we close it up?
Yes,
Jim?
and thank you, Jim and Lisa and Rodrigo, for some wonderful teaching today. Okay, yeah, we'll wrap up for today here. So thank you all for coming. This has been the sixth part for understanding plasma science. So next week we'll have part 7, same time, same place, 10 a.m. Central European Time on this channel. Coming up, we have tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. Central European Time, the 15th, One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. And we invite all of you to join us then. Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central European Time. And the whole purpose, or it's not the whole, but part of the purpose of these public teachings here for understanding plasma science is to obviously not only get some basic information out, but if you're interested in learning more, deeper in depth, please join our private classes. And to do that, you can become a student of the Keshe Foundation. And there's a way to apply for that at kfssi.org/apply. Become a private student. You can have access to all of the private teachings that we do, because we are teaching Monday through Friday, 2 sessions a day. Some of the sessions are public, some are private. And of course, all the various languages. We have a dozen or so languages that are also teaching private and public. So thank you all for coming, and we'll go out here with some music, and we'll see you all tomorrow afternoon.